2021 IUPUI International Festival. This is our lecture series, and we have the pleasure of having Professor Edward Curtis making a very interesting presentation to us, inshallah. Professor Curtis is the Millennium Chair of the School of Liberal Art at IUPUI and a professor of Religious Studies, Americana Studies, and African Studies. He wrote many books and did a lot of research on African American culture, Muslims in the United States, and now he has this big project about the history of Arab in Indianapolis. So thank you very much, Professor Curtis, and let us start.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mashhour. Welcome, everybody. It's so great to see you today. This is a wonderful gathering of people, and I'm especially appreciative to Dr. Mashhour for my introduction. She and I work together on Arab and Islamic Studies in the School of Liberal Arts, and hope to continue to be resources for not just for our students, but also for our community members. So we're very Googleable. Please do get in touch with us as we can be of service to you. I also want to say that there are some people who would like to be here but cannot be here. I took the slot that I was given, but as many of you will know, this is the same time during which Muslims throughout the world, but in particular in this time zone, make their Friday congregational prayers, which many consider to be an incumbent, a necessary, a wajib, a fard religious duty. So we're missing some of the members of our beautiful Arab community because some of them are praying right now, as they are commanded to do. But we will record this session so everyone will be able to see it after that. All right, so what I'm going to do today is briefly give you an introduction to the project of Arab Indianapolis, tell you where we are, and mention some ways in which you might become involved, whether you are Arab or not Arab, and also give some of the student researchers who are on the call with us today a chance to talk about what they learned in this project. And I already see some people, and you can't always tell by the name. Remember that in the Arab American community, you cannot always tell by the name whether or not we are Arab descended or not. And for example, you might not think, given my name, that I'm an Arab, right? But I grew up in an Arab American home, and and so. And so I happen to know, for example, I see Andrea Watt's picture, and I know she told me via Twitter that she's related to the Haboush Market family. And I'm going to give a chance towards the end of our time together to ask some of you maybe to share some stories about your personal connection, if you'd like to share that, to Arab Indianapolis. Why did I start Arab Indianapolis? Well, I have just completed a new book on Syrian Muslims who immigrated to this country before World War I. I discovered I couldn't believe it, but I discovered in the course of my research that some of my own relatives were Muslim, but left behind Islam around the beginning of the 1900s. Most of us were Christians. We were Melkite or Greek Catholic, people who practiced a form of the Greek Orthodox liturgy, the Orthodox liturgy in classical Arabic actually, but gave their allegiance to the Pope. So my own people came before World War I. And as I was researching this book on Muslims, Syrian Muslims throughout the American Midwest, it became painfully clear to me how Indianapolis has been very, very important to the history of Arab America, but also very ignored by the scholars. And when I moved here to Indianapolis in 2005, I knew that there were Arabic speakers here. I knew, of course, of newer immigrants. I knew about, but I had trouble finding out any information about the very old Arab American community of Indianapolis. And once I learned how to do the kind of research I needed to do in order to unearth that history of the Arabic speaking communities of Indianapolis, that's when I really was inspired to begin this project. And so this started more than a year ago now. And one of the early things I did was I asked for some students to join me in that project as we sought to research the history of Arab Indianapolis. And at least two, I think three of those students are on today. And I'm going to ask, I've already asked Jay Broadzeller and Ronnie Kawak if they would be willing to share something that they learned as they were doing the research. There have been a total of 8 student researchers on the project since we began, both men and women, most of whom are not of Arab descent, but who are very committed to telling the story of the history of Indianapolis and of Arabic speaking people in that history. So Jay or Ronnie, who would like to start and share something that you learned as a part of this project?
I don't mind starting.
Great.
So hello, everybody. I'm Jay Broadzeller. So I guess I've learned a lot from this project. I've been on it for a few semesters now. And I guess on the surface level, something that I've learned a lot about is just research skills in general. As a history student, I've learned a lot about researching outside of just the research papers that I would be used to in class. So that's been very fruitful for me. But more related to the content of the project, I've really just learned a lot about the community that I live in that I really did not have much knowledge of previously. I've learned so many about so many inspiring stories from some of the people that I've researched. People like Helen Corey and Sadie Hyder, just very influential hallmarks in the community that I had no clue were so important. So I've learned a lot about sort of the richness and diversity of the community that I was not previously aware of.
Thank you, Jay. And there might be some chances for, as questions come in.
So my name is Ronnie. As Professor Curtis mentioned, I was one of the researchers that started in. I learned a lot, just like Jay mentioned, about like using extra resources like ancestry.com that really extends past normal history student research. And then also, I'm sorry, can you guys hear me?
You're fading in and out a little bit, Ronnie.
Okay, sorry. So I learned, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I learned a lot, like Jay said, I learned how to use more research tools to, to discover historical events and people, like Ancestry, like certain websites that give you databases on street maps, on newspaper clippings, and that really extends my world as a student researcher. But contextually, so my parents are immigrants from Syria, so this is actually very personal to me. And while I'm not Greek Orthodox, I am I did go to St. George Greek Orthodox Church, the old church, before they built the new one. I knew some of these people. They were in my life, and so just doing the research was very personal to me. I also got to interview people. I got to personally interview people who were there at the first church, and it really was a very significant point of my research that gave me the ability to really expand my horizon.
I have been so grateful for Jay and Ronnie, and I think Jamie might be on the call. She came later onto the project, Jamie West. Yes, I see that name there. And Mickey Yoder and Emma Eldridge and Dana Dobbins and so many of the students who have made it possible for me to go we've been zooming on this project. We are way ahead of where we thought we would be. We now have 24 blog posts up at arabindianapolis.com about the history and contemporary lives of Arab Americans from Morocco, who trace their roots from everywhere from Morocco to Iraq here in Indianapolis. And this is an unprecedented, close examination of Americans of Arab descent in Indianapolis. And I'm very happy because we did that. We just signed a contract, or I signed a contract with Belt Publishing. It's short for Rust Belt Publishing. They're coming out with an anthology of Indianapolis right now, and they specialize in the history and life of the Midwest. They're out of Cleveland, and they are going to be producing a beautiful coffee table book, beautiful book of photography of Arab Indianapolis coming out next year, and that will show all of the research that the students and I have done, in addition to featuring the photographs that community members themselves have provided, including St. George Church and the Indiana Muslim Action Network, and also I have a student photographer, Ziad Hifni, who is taking photographs. He grew up here for he's a young professional photographer for the book. So it's a real community project. So that's where we've made a lot of progress with that. And we will continue to, and there are a lot of community partners. Let me mention some of them. So we have the Indiana Muslim Action Network was a very early supporter of this. The Catholic Charities Immigrant and Refugee Services is a supporter. Indianapolis Public Library came on as an official supporter. And right now, as we speak, they are helping the leaders of St. George Church care for 100 years of documents that have been sitting very precariously in a storage facility outside of the church. And and they're right now as we speak, the Indianapolis Public Library is helping them build an archive of that very important institution in our town. So that's another node. Arab Indianapolis has a lot of different. It basically is directed by Arab Americans in Indianapolis, and so wherever we take one another, that's where we go. There's not just, we will be doing many things over the coming years. And I hope some of you will become involved in that. Let me show you very quickly some of the things that we've done here on this website so that you can see what we have. Should be able to see now. One of the things I wanted to do, this is our website. And one of the things I wanted to do was reach out to as many people as I could by making a mini documentary of Arab Indianapolis. And if you go to this website, you'll see a 5-minute mini documentary. It starts with one branch of the Frigi family. And I think I might be able to, and their arrival on Willard Street, which is underneath Lucas Oil Stadium. One of the reasons why we don't know as much as we should about Arab Indianapolis is because our history is literally buried underneath Lucas Oil Stadium. That was the center of the Syrian colony. That was the center of our community, of the Arabic-speaking community. And like so many other communities in the south part of Indianapolis, it's buried. So if we wanted to do archaeology now, we can't do it. Much of that history is lost, and we piece together what we can from newspapers, from city directories, from birth and death records, from all of the things that that Ronnie and Jay just mentioned. Let's see, and I forgot to also mention that we also have a relationship with Imman Schools up in Fishers. So that was another early signatory. Okay, so this is so we research our past, and here you should be able to see the many different topics that we have covered. And then we also have interviews of both Muslims and Christians mainly, but also probably some people who don't necessarily identify as either one. Most do. Most of our community is either Muslim or Christian. Okay, let me stop screen sharing. I just wanted to show you where we were with that. Okay, so I'm going to give just a couple minutes before we open it up to some more conversation about when the story began and how it developed. Okay. The story of Arab Indianapolis. The story begins in the late 1800s. 1 out of every 5 Syrians, and at the time, Syria included what today are Jordan, Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria. 500,000 Syrians left their country because, not just because they were looking for opportunity, but because of industrialization. Traditional ways of making living had changed. And so in the late 1800s, 500,000 of them come to the Americas. The 3 largest countries are Argentina, Brazil, and the United States, over 100,000 each in those 3 countries. This is why, by the way, we have as many Arabic speakers in Latin America as we do in Anglophone North America, because so many of them went there. And so they come and they establish in Indiana, right in Terre Haute and in Indianapolis, most of the people who came were either, I already mentioned what a Melkite Christian was, were either Melkites, that is Greek Catholics, or they were Orthodox, in particular Antiochian Orthodox. And many of them trace their roots to one of the most sacred cities in Christianity, and in Orthodox Christianity, in particular, Sidnaya, in the contemporary country of the Syrian Arab Republic. Okay, again, it was all Syria then. So they trace their roots to there, but also to various parts of Lebanon. Up north in Michigan City was more Muslim. That's where the first Shia Muslim mosque, or the first mosque of any kind, was established in Indiana. It was up in Michigan City, and I've written about that. You can see on my web. I have a whole chapter, in fact, in this upcoming book on that. But here in Indianapolis, it was mainly a Christian community, the heart of it being downtown. Many of these people were peddlers, and they were struggling as much as they could to integrate into a society that generally saw them at the time as Orientals. That's the word that was used. And they worked hard to try to become white. And by 1915, the courts declared that, yes, indeed, they were white. Because if you were Asian, you weren't eligible to become a citizen of the United States, right, because of the 1790 law. So you had to be white to be a citizen. So they worked very much to become and fought a discrimination in that. But after they fought in World War I, they achieved enormous success, as the project shows. I mean, they were working to build the community. At the same time that Arab Americans were becoming successful, the Ku Klux Klan was rising in Indiana in a way. We became the biggest Klan state in the Union. And this threatened their status because in 1924, the country passed the National Origin Act. It cut off immigration from Arab countries in Asia, from Arabic-speaking countries. Syria was allowed 100 immigrants a year. That's it. This had a great impact. This is one of the reasons why we don't have continual immigration. Besides, if you were the wife of a husband already here in the United States, you could come. But other than that, we have a break in the history until after World War II, when immigration policy begins to change, but it doesn't completely change until 1965, when the Hart-Celler Bill is passed as part of the Civil Rights Movement. And it's after 1965, when the racist immigration quotas are done away with and the immigration policy is rewritten, that we find that Arabic speakers come once again in much larger numbers than they did. And this is when in Indianapolis, we get many more Muslims as well as Christians. We still have the largest single group of Arab Americans in Indianapolis are Syrian and Lebanese. And because of that, and because of the long-standing nature of Christians among them, we continue to have a very large community of Christian Arabic speakers or descendants of Arabic speakers in Indianapolis. In the United States, we're roughly half and half Muslim Christians in the Arab American community, right? We may be more Christian than Muslim here in Indianapolis. We don't know. Estimates range that today we probably have 30 to 40,000, perhaps more Arab Americans here in Indianapolis. And again, Arab Americans who trace their heritage everywhere from Morocco to Iraq. So even though immigration was cut off for Arab Americans in Indianapolis, they still managed to build, those who were here, incredibly strong community institutions. One of those institutions, as I've already mentioned, was St. George Church, which is over the original on the east side. And we have incredibly new, wonderful new information about St. George Church on the website that you can go see. That was new. When I presented it to the church leaders, they said, we never knew that. So you're gonna enjoy it if you go there. The other was, if you go on the west side, the center of Arab American socializing, without a doubt, was we used to have our own clubhouse here. I wish we still had a clubhouse. It was on Riverside Park, and you could go eat there. You could go hear great Arabic poetry there. You could go dance the dibki or the Arab line dance there. You could see performances. Yes, you would, there was American music played, but there was all kinds of Arabic music being played there too. It was right on Riverside Park. The reason why these institutions are no longer with us is that, just like other white ethnic immigrant communities, increasingly after World War II, the racial integration of Indianapolis led Arab Americans to try to move up north. And many others did that too. And the southern part of the city of Indianapolis and the eastern part of the city of Indianapolis in particular were seen as not safe, as undesirable after racial integration. Because you have to remember, before World War II, Indianapolis was a deeply racialized town. I mean, Black people could not go to most parts of the city. They were not safe. In Riverside Park, where you had the Syrian American Brotherhood Clubhouse, they were not allowed. They were completely not allowed. Into the early 1970s, there was an amusement park there. And only and you would, if you wanted to go as an African American to this amusement park, you would go on a designated set aside day in the 1960s for Black people. So we have to remember that just how deeply race and the interstate system have shaped where we live, and really very much kind of took apart those institutions that had really grounded us in a sense of place. Right, so that we can no longer go back to our clubhouse. It's for sale, by the way, if anyone wants to buy it. It got turned into a church, and it's for sale. Anyway, okay, so and then after World War II, what happened was we see a tremendous impact as Jay Brodzeller mentioned, of some Arab Americans at the highest level. 4 decades before Mitch Daniels, an Arab American who grew up in what he affectionately called a Jewish neighborhood, and went to Washington Township schools. 4 decades before he became governor, Helen Corey from Terre Haute became the first major Arab American office holder in this state, garnering over 1 million votes. And I've worked with her family, and we discovered all kinds of things about Helen Corey. I found the story deeply moving because Helen Corey reminded me so much of my own grandmother and the things that my grandmother taught me when I was a kid. And she was, Helen Corey was, she was so many things. She was not only a state politician, she was one of the greatest cooks in the history of Arab America. Her book on Syrian cookery, published in the early 1960s, was a major event in the culinary world. So we have these figures like Helen Corey, and then of course out of the St. George Church comes Jeff George, who goes #1 at Ward Central High School, goes #1 in the NFL draft and becomes the Indianapolis Colts quarterback. So we have all of these really fantastic figures as well. But what we've taken care in the Arab Indianapolis not to just talk about the famous people, but one of the things you'll see is from Sadie Hyder to Dunya Muslet, who happens, the Palestinian American 4th grade teacher who happens to teach my daughter Alia at Greenbrier Elementary off of 86th and Ditch. We've tried to give voice to many different kinds, people in different fields with different views, to try to capture the racial, ethnic, religious, social, economic diversity of Arab Indianapolis. And that's been a real joy. Okay, I'm going to stop my overview now of the project and allow, in particular, I welcome questions, but I also would love to hear comments from those of you who consider yourselves part of Arab Indianapolis, and maybe share one thought, one idea about what the history of Arab Indianapolis means to you, or just to introduce yourself very briefly. We want to make sure and get that we get everyone in. I see Barbara Fisher is texting me here. Helen is still living. Yes, she is. Absolutely. So your discussion of her sounds like she has departed. That is an occupational hazard. I am a historian, and we use the past tense for things that happened just a moment ago. It's just part of how we write in our business. So yes, she is. And you can get if you want to send her greetings, you can do so through the church in Terre Haute. And I've been in touch with 3 of her nieces and her pastor. And so that's how I've gathered, and I'm still in touch with her. But she is incredible. Her mother lived to maybe be around 107 or 108, some extraordinary, and so Helen Corey is still very much with us. Okay, is there anyone who would like to either ask a question about Arab Indianapolis or identify yourself as part of Arab Indianapolis? Yes, please just unmute yourself there, please, Ms. Najjar.
Hello, Dr. Curtis. My name is Diana Najjar. Some of my cousins are here on this website with you. And I just want to say how grateful we are for you to do this study. It's obviously very precious to me. I am, of course, Arab American too. My grandparents were among those who came here in the late 1800s from what is currently today Lebanon. And then they were among the founders of St. George Church, the first one at 28th and Sherman Drive, which was the picture that you displayed on the information site. And we can actually identify many. My mother's in there. I mean, just everybody, just all the cousins and lots and lots of relatives. So it's very exciting that you are doing this. We are grateful that you are doing it. And also, you know, I was hoping to be able to learn something new that I didn't know, which I didn't know about the immigration laws. And so that's a very important part of what has what did take place. And so I like the fact that you are doing this study and that you are also that it's ongoing, because there is so much still happening. And so and the contributions from the Arab Americans, Muslim, Christian, all of us. And so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, please do be in touch with me or I'm happy to be in touch with you to see if I would love to know. We want to include other stories. We're not stopping now. So if we can tell more stories, we would love to do that. And I can be reached in a variety of ways, including phone or email, and I'll put some of that information in the chat room.
Okay, thank you.
Professor Curtis, can I just add something? The number of Arab American is quite big, and I can feel it in my classes. I have a very important group of second, third generation of Arab immigrants. The number is growing every semester, and I can tell my students to contact you also. Ronnie was one of my students who is now working with you, but already I have students who are now attending your presentation, and they are from, immigrant grandparents or parents even. And, and I see how they are so proud to go back to their origin and learn the language, because they don't know it. They hear it a little bit at home, but they are very motivated to learn the language and very encouraged and supported by their parents. So, yeah, I'll provide more resources to you. I am myself an immigrant, but I am the third generation. And also we can see the importance of Arab immigrant in the naming of some towns and cities. So we have Lebanon, New Palestine. There is even a town called Mecca, west of where I live. So we see this all around. There is Morocco. On the way to Chicago.
That's right. And a lot of that was actually from the Germans immigrants who who were Masons and Shriners. And they loved to name things. There was a whole Oriental revival in the 1800s of art and music and naming. And so they loved to name things after it. So my people, for example, guess where they immigrated to? Cairo. Now, it was named Cairo long before the Arabs got there, but my great grandfather was named Moses and he lived in Cairo. How you like that? Cairo, Illinois. So I'm sure he got a chuckle out of that. And this is why I already knew about Terre Haute, because there was a strong connection between my mother's hometown of Cairo, Illinois and Terre Haute, Indiana. So yeah, no, and one of the things I love driving past, I think it's on Interstate 74, the First Lutheran Church of Mahomet, that is Mahomet, Illinois. So you have all of these names. That's right. Okay, who else would like to either ID yourself as part of Arab Indianapolis and share something about that is meaningful to you, or just ask a question about the project?
There is Barbara Fisher. You can unmute yourself, please. You're muted.
There, I was having troubles with that. Yes, I wanted to add to this. Diana and I are cousins, and Nancy up in the corner is my sister, and Judy Naiman is a cousin that's on here, and then Judy Hanna is also a cousin. And our relatives were owners of neighborhood grocery stores.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the people that came over at that time, early 1900s, 1915, 1920, owned neighborhood grocery stores.
You are gonna love, have you seen our article yet on Syrian grocery stores?
No.
You're gonna love it. And you know, using, we at IUPUI, I am very fortunate in that I have great resources. And one of the top GIS geographers in the country is helping me recreate precisely all of the Syrian owned grocery stores. And he's about done with his map. I have at the beginning of a map there, but we are going to pinpoint all of those stores so that we can, that can be brought back to that knowledge. But
Yeah.
we're talking about a very large percentage. And this is one of the reasons why, by the way, as I explained in the, I've studied a lot of grocery stores in writing my book about the Syrians in the heartland. In the Depression, it was the grocery store that oftentimes kept the community going and very successful because people had to eat.
Mhm.
And the grocery store was the main source of credit for
Mhm.
people in the and so you know, they would carry you on the roll and then you'd pay them when you'd come back. So it became a bank because the people didn't trust the banks very much. And so it was, the grocery store was a cornerstone of the Arab American community, and it's why churches and mosques still got built in the 1930s because there was still wealth coming into the community via the grocery store.
Well, I hope that you have our parents' grocery included, Bill and Ed's Market. So when you're pinpointing it, it was downtown Indianapolis.
Yeah, please do write to me. One of the things that I will not be able to do, honestly, is I won't remember everything from our meeting because I've got 5 different screens open right now trying to keep this thing going. But you know, please do write to me. I put my information in the chat room. Again, you can and you can always get my information. You can contact Father Anthony or Deacon Joseph and tell them to tell me a message. You know, there are a lot of ways to be in touch with me. Please do that. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Who else? Anyone else?
Professor McIntosh, I think you posted something on the chat. Can you share it, please?
Yeah, I think everyone should be able to see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Dr. McIntosh says that there was interest in establishing an Arab trail. I didn't know that. Much has been lost beneath Lucas Oil Stadium, but is there potential for such a trail to raise the profile of the Arab heritage? Absolutely. You know, and so this would be something where, for example, you, Ian, could take the lead on this and try to partner with Arab Americans and create an Arab cultural trail here. And one of the things that we're providing is in this project is we've got all the coordinates, all the sites. So so this is a true community engaged project. This is not where I am going to, you know, I won't be able to do everything, but if we can get people who are willing to run with this, why not? That would be very fun. And I would think that, you know, Andrea Watts is on this call. I mean, I would think the city of Indianapolis might be interested in that, you know, I mean, this would be really, so you can use various apps. I think Clio is the most popular history app where you go and you look at sites across the United States and it tells you all about the place where you are. So you could use Clio in order to make this accessible to everybody. It's a great idea. Others, questions about the project or shares?
Hi, Dr. Curtis. This is Yasser Dot, if I may interject here. So first of all, you know how much I support this project, and it's been absolutely a source of pride for all Arab Americans. For me personally, I am a first generation immigrant, very much in touch with my culture and my heritage. And what this project to me did, it just created so much hope for my children, and children of our other Arab Americans, to just be in touch in a proud way with their roots. Arab culture, especially with the relationship between East and West being strained with so many bad events in the history, it's not something that is pleasant or easy for our children to do. But your project just brought to life the what I would call them the threads of Arabs in the fabric of the society of Indianapolis, and really reminded us that we are the story of America. We are the story of Indianapolis from the very beginning. So it is absolutely stunning to see those stories, and it filled my heart with pride every time I hear about it. And honestly, I'm just looking around of the participants. It's amazing to see this breadth of people. Most of them I actually do not know. To your point, it's not easy to pinpoint kind of Arabs by name anymore because names did change over time, etc. So I hope that this would also start kind of connecting us together a little better so that we can support each other, learn about our journeys and history. I do have one question for you. Based on your research so far, who is the first named Arab who was in Indianapolis? Who do you expect that is to be based on what you know today?
Or that if I said that, all of their relatives on this call will get so mad at me. They'll say, no, we were first. No, we were first. Hey, you have no idea. I mean, perhaps, but one of the things about coming from an immigrant family is, my granny, we called her Granny, Cassie Samaha Safa, would get so angry at other at the Humsies. Those Humsies, they claimed that they were here first, but I don't know. And it would, here's the thing, because so many in our community were peddlers, it would be extremely hard to pinpoint because people were literally coming through. But we have here, let's see. Barbara Fisher sends me another message. My parents' grocery. Oh, I see. This is for later. Yes. Okay. So we will. But what we know is that by 1910 there were 1,000 people of Arab heritage here, and by in 1900, we're probably talking about in the hundreds. It's very difficult to always do the first. That's really hard. But I love the question. I think I'm going to let all the community historians go out and do this research so they can fight amongst themselves about about this question. I don't want, it's too hot to handle for me.
I knew that would be a hot potato. You handled it well, though.
Yeah, let's see. Does the project talk about Arab old history in Indianapolis, or does it include the new achievements? Yes, Roba, if you go to arabindianapolis.com, you will see that the project begins the very first stories of Arab Americans settling here in Indianapolis, and it takes us all the way up to the present. For example, there's a whole profile of Senator Fadi Qaddoura, who is the first Arab Muslim elected to the Indiana Senate. He's Palestinian, and Ronnie helped me research his whole history. You learn all about how he grew up in Ramallah in Palestine, and how Hurricane Katrina affected his family, and how it was that he became, it's just a remarkable success story. I happen to live in his district. I mean, his $611,000 was facing Ruckelhaus's $1.6 million. I mean, and Ruckelshaus is from one of the most prestigious Republican families in the history of this country. And Fadi Kadura's victory is no matter what side you are on politically, one has to respect a kid who grew up in the midst of the Palestinian intifadas, you know, how he has become so successful in our city and is shaping laws now in the state of Indiana. Other questions or comments before we go?
Thank you, Professor Curtis. Oh, there is a question from Dan.
Where did you say you will be posting your email?
I put it in the chat room.
Okay.
And can you see it there if you open
Well,
chat?
I'm looking at that, but all I see in the chat room is something from Ian and something from
Okay,
Ruba. So I don't know.
no problem. Let me try again. Also, you can always Google me. I'm very Googleable.
Okay.
And all of my information is also on ArabIndianapolis.com. You can also get in touch with me. It has if you'd like to volunteer for the project, if you'd like to write a story for the project, there's a form there. You just fill out online at ArabIndianapolis.com, and you will become part of the project. Nicole asks, as a public historian, I've been wanting to delve into Arab history, but I'm not sure where to start. What repositories or sources would you suggest I consult? Yes. So, Nicole, please send me that as an email, and I will send you a number of things rather than just one. But if you will read Arab Indianapolis, if that's what you're looking at for Arab American history, that it explains how we use city directories, Ancestry.com, the Indianapolis Star and the Indianapolis News, and other, and based atlases and Sanborn insurance maps. It explains how we use all of those sources to recreate what life was like for people living in 1900 on Willard Street, for example. But do write to me, and I can tell you. We also, I'm also happy that a number of people will do. Okay, yes, Indiana specific history, no problem. I will hook you up with those sources. Anything else? Peopling, Indiana. Diana Najjar has Peopling, Indiana. Is there a lot in there about Arabs?
When I used to teach at Orchard School, the fourth grade teachers, instead of doing just Indiana history, wanted to do the peoples of the ethnic communities. And I said, oh, well, you won't find anything about my people there. And then they handed me the book, and I opened it directly to the page that had the picture of St. George Church on it, and an entire many pages of it. In fact, even my Judy Hanna, who's on here, and my son were all dancing in the festival. That's in the book too. But it was just weird that I happened to pick up the book and I opened it, and it was the page. I'll leave it. It was this page that you had, the picture of
Yes.
St. George. So that's the page I opened to, and I'm looking at that and I'm going, oh my gosh, and that's my mother. And then I turned a couple pages, and there was the inside of the church, and then I turned some more pages, and then there was my son and Judy. It's kind of hard to see, but picture of them at the festival dancing and stuff. So that we got through the Indiana Historical Society.
That's fantastic. And I am in touch with Nicole Martinez-Legrand, who is producing an even larger book about Asian peoples in Indianapolis. And remember that you know, geographically speaking, Syria is in Asia, right? So it's from West Asia to all the way to East Asia. So that will be coming out probably next year or the year after that. So there will be even more, and I'm consulting on that project, even more coming. But I'm really glad, I didn't even know about that book. So I'm really, Peopling, Indiana, I'm really glad you shared that with us. Any other questions or thoughts? Judy, I think you're saying something, but you're muted, unless you're just singing.
All right. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. My dad had his grocery store in Indianapolis, he owned it by himself and ran it for 45 years or so, called himself the mayor of Harding Street. But also my mother's family's from Terre Haute. So I know all about the grocery stores there. My grandfather had a grocery store on 4th Street for years and years and years. And yes, a lot of the Arab people who went over there or who came to Terre Haute did go to him for food and shelter and all of that. And they did. They took care of the people. The grocery stores were very, very important there. And they still are. They still carry on a lot of the tradition there.
That's fantastic. I would love to feature more of those stories. I have, in addition to my little, mini documentary, one of the descendants of Abraham Freegee, who was another of these grocery store owners, is making a film about his search for his Arab roots in Indianapolis.
Oh, wow.
And I'm going to share this with him so that in case he wants to talk to some other descendants of grocery store owners, so that he can talk to you. But his name is Josh Chitwood. Again, how could you guess that Josh Chitwood is an Arab American? But he is, and so this is the kind of thing that we want to make possible, and that I'm trying to, you know, encourage among people, that we make this as democratic as possible. But I'm going to make sure and share this with him so that he knows that there are other living descendants of grocers among us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
By the way, my great great grandfather was a peddler, and so was my great grandfather. But they became farmers then in Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
He actually bought the farm where he used to stay overnight when he was peddling. He eventually bought he saved up enough money to buy that farm, and that became the homestead for the family for 3 generations in Southern Illinois.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Other questions or comments?
There's just another comment,
Yes.
Dr. Curtis. Elaine Eckhart is on, and you were talking about the Freegee family, and she is a Freegee. So I don't.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
There you go. Oh, okay. There you go.
No, I was debating about whether it was worth commenting. I'm sorry that I had to join late. I had another.
Well, I wasn't sure, Elaine, that you even heard it, because I saw that you came in late and wasn't sure that you heard him talking about the Freegee family. So
I didn't. I missed that, but somebody texted me and said that you had done that. But so yes,
I'm on Zoom now.
So Jay Brodzeller, the student researcher who's on this call, learned quite a lot about the Freegee family. I mean, a lot. So do check that. I mean, we have a lot. And the thing, as far as I can tell,
we'll get ready for tonight.
You mute yourself. Here, I'll mute.
Oh, okay. She muted.
The thing that is interesting is, as far as I can tell, they actually weren't all related. It's
right.
It's more of a clan name than it is a family name. You know, kind of like Smith or something. You know, because I mean, it was one of the largest, biggest, most popular names. You look in the census, you look in the city directory. There are, I mean, you just, you know, you can't avoid. It's a many Freegees here.
That's actually well articulated. It is like Smith. And Jay, I'd be interested in talking to you or learning, you know, just learning more about what you've. So do I find that at the at that website?
At ArabIndianapolis.com. And I'd be happy to put you in touch with Josh Chitwood, who's making the film about Abraham Freege.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah.
I have an older brother who's probably even a better family historian than I am. But what, my grandmother ran grocery stores on the West Side during the Depression. So what you said about the, being the source of credit, really, it was so true. I can remember my father.
You've got to meet Andrea. She hasn't said a word on this whole call, but so did her people, the Habushes, right?
Yeah, I can chime in.
Okay.
My name is Andrea Watts. I wish I had a Lebanese sounding last name. My maternal grandmother's side is Habush, and then grandfather is Nejem. So yeah, I'm half Lebanese, and I saw this on Twitter and I thought this is so cool. And thank you, Dr. Curtis, for making it available to the public. And I'm really excited to learn more and hear all these fun stories. So yeah, Habush Market in Hawville. So I'm not sure exact address, but I know that they were there for a lot of years. So.
Thank you so much for sharing. All right, so I hope this is the beginning of many more interactions. It's so lovely. I feel like I'm among extended family on this call. I really appreciate you all being here. Please be in touch with me. Let's do it again sometime. And let's keep telling these stories and passing them along, not just to our families, but also to our neighbors. Thank you again for joining the IUPUI International Festival, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.